What's up, guys? I'm Trailbound Chris, and I wanted to give a comparison of the different Sidi boots. A lot of things have changed recently. The names have changed. I've been running Sidis for a very long time, and I just want to kind of give a comparison because I was in the market for new boots and I was trying to figure out what was what. Basically, we could start with these guys. These are the closest to what I've been wearing the last couple of years, which you guys probably know of as the Atojos. They're now called the Crossfires. You guys know the Crossfire, that's kind of their name. These are the Crossfire 3s. But yeah, basically if I pull up one of these old Atojos, I keep wearing these. You can see how similar they are. What I like about this boot is that they kind of made it a lot more minimal than the Crossfires or the TAs. I used to wear the TAs before I went to the Atojos. So you just have the 3 buckles, Velcro on top instead of the 4 buckles. There's not a lot of screws. There's not a lot of bolts. It's not really as replaceable as if you were to go with the kind of traditional Crossfire. And when you pick them both up, you can really tell there's a difference. These are quite a bit lighter than these. And that's what I like about them. They're simplified. One thing that they did update on these new Cross Airs is the bottom of the sole. So now it's no longer replaceable. And I like the idea of replaceable soles, but I didn't really like this old style, or I didn't really like the newer style that they put on the Atojos where it's just in this area. So the toe wasn't replaceable, the heel wasn't replaceable. And the problem I was having is that I'd lose a lot of screws for one, and they start kind of popping out. And then the side, I would just wear this off, and then you couldn't really hook the replaceable sole in it. So, that's one thing. I mean, once the sole is worn out, it's kind of at the point where you almost want a new boot anyways. So, I don't know. I really like the look of this new, really like what's going on here. They made it a lot steeper. One of the problems I had with this old Atojo is you can see how round it is at the toe. So you lose out, if you have short feet, you lose out on the braking. It's almost like you had to press even further down to get to that brake. If you have long feet, it's probably not a problem, but you can see now it's got a nice tall toe, so you don't have to run the pedal as high. And also the sole is the kind of toe area, so this diagonal is like really grippy. I don't know if you see here, it's like really grippy versus if you go to this kind of the older style replaceable with this rubber, this is actually pretty slippery. So I really like this texture. I don't know how long this texture will last, if it's going to wear off and get slippery, but this rubber does feel nice and grippy. So to contrast that, this X Power boot I hadn't seen before. I don't know how long. I think they've been out for a while. I just never noticed them before. But, looking at the bottom, I'm like, oh, look at that aggressive, almost trials sole. Although the rubber is kind of hard. It's not like super soft like a trials sole. So it won't wear out. But it does look pretty grippy if you're riding in mud and that sort of thing. But if you compare it to the Cross Airs, it does not have this ankle lock, or, this ankle stop, I guess is what you call it. So that when you flex, it stops, and then it stops it from flexing. Whereas this, there's nothing there. There's nothing on the side. So they do seem to be more flexible. So when I put these on, they are really cushy inside. They've got a lot of foam in there. They do feel really comfortable. Got this big sole, which is tall. But I'm used to the Atojos, and I just felt like the support didn't seem like it was quite going to be enough for me. I think these would be good adventure boots, single track boots. But if you're riding hard enduro, you're just always dabbing. Putting your feet on the ground is part of hard enduro, which is funny. It's dirt biking, but you're touching the ground a lot. You're getting off the bike. You're pushing. You need that really grippiness, and you need to be able to jump off the bike and not hurt your ankle. So for me, I'm not going to go with these X Power ones. I think they need to be a little bit more beefed up. But in terms of lightness, I'd say these are just a tad bit heavier. So these are pretty light. These are still, I want to say, lighter. Now, if you were to compare these guys, these ones look really cool. You might not have seen these. These just came out. They're called the Crossfire X. So they're kind of a blend between Crossfire, which is the old Atojo, and the Crossfires. So you can see you've got this big plastic piece. Both of these have this. So it's a big shin support, whereas the Tojos are, I mean, it's like a pretty hard rubber, but this is just a thick plastic. It's a second layer in there. So this is a more beefed up version of this. And in terms of lightness, this is slightly heavier. This is still going to be the lightest of the bunch. But the soles are the same between the Crossfire and the Crossfire X. Got the same ankle support. Everything on the back is the same. You do have 4 buckles if you're a fan of that versus the 3 buckles. So it does have the same ankle, stop on it. But I think because it has the 4th buckle, it almost seems like that stops it from flexing more. Whereas if your leg is in here, it sort of flexes a little bit more. So I'd say these are a little bit softer. Although I've never had a problem with how much this one flexes. I really like it. I've actually broken this ankle support piece off, but that is replaceable. 2 screws, really easy. I stole it off the old Atojo, put it on. But yeah, this one is more beefed up than this one. This is the most expensive boot of all of these. This one is, I think, the cheapest. Maybe these X Powers are a little bit cheaper. But yeah, very similar in weight, which is nice. Similar overall, but you just have more support up here, and you've got that extra buckle. But what's the difference between these Crossfires? These are like the traditional ones, and this newer kind of more modern style. You have a lot of replaceable parts on the Crossfire. You guys Sidi is known for this. But for me, when the boot wears out, it's like, am I really going to replace these plastic guards? Not really. If something breaks, you might replace that. But, overall, I'd say I don't mind that this doesn't have replaceable parts other than, the buckles are replaceable, this ankle support's replaceable, and then these things screw on as well. The sole, they updated it. The old Crossfire sole went all the way heel to toe, and you could put an enduro sole on there. Now this is like the kind of the Atojo style. It does look a little bit more beefed up on the sides, but yeah, the rubber that they're using does feel a little bit softer, or not softer, a little bit harder, I guess. Whereas this is more grippy. So you can see it moves easier. This one, actually, it's really just the toe. The toe is what has the grip on this new Crossfire style. So you can see that really grippy when I put it down. So yeah, something to keep in mind. If you're pushing your bike, you might prefer this sole. So I should say all of these boots, Crossfire X, X Power, these all feel pretty wide in the toe. A lot of complaints from back in the day was that the Sidis are too tight with that European, foot, the smaller foot. American foot is bigger. So if you like this Crossfire design, and you have a wider foot, go with the TAs. That's what I used to do. The difference between that is the TA has a sewn-on sole, so you won't be able to replace that. So in terms of weight, I have them set up. Well, actually, Crossfire. Forget. So this is a weight in terms of lightest to heaviest. This X Power Enduro is lightest at 3.8 per boot. I measure just per boot. The Crossfire is going to be 4 pounds. Crossfire X 4.3 pounds, and then the Crossfire 4.6 pounds. So you got to double that, and it kind of adds weight to your feet. So the one other complaint about this Sidi Atojo that I had, even though I really like this boot, besides the sole, is that this front piece, the leather that they had on that, or whatever, yeah, it was like a leather fabric. You can see it just disintegrated, it pulled off. and I still ran it, you know, it's fine. But I don't have an old version versus a new version, but this material does feel a little bit more aggressive, a little bit stronger. Seems like all the boots have that, so that's a little bit more nice and beefed up. Finally, we could talk about the sizing. So the Atojos, I've been running the 43, which is a 9 and a 9.5. So that's what I tried those, but I also tried the 44. So the 44 is like a 9.5 to 10. And I felt like that was a little bit too much play for my foot. And for comparison, my size foot in like an Ariat boot is a 9EE. So that means wide. One of my feet are wider than the other. So yeah, I've got a size 9 and it's wide. So I feel like these Atojos, or the Crossfire now is what they're calling them, in a 9, which is the European 43, is the way to go for me. In the past Atojos, I had some problem with a hot spot on the top forming after a long time, actually. I don't know if they kind of morphed a little bit, but I was able to heat gun it, put a double sock in there, do some yard work, let them cool down, wear them in, and the hot spot was gone. So, but just putting on new, they feel good and comfy even with my wide foot. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with these offerings. I was a little confused when I was going on the Sidi site trying to figure out what boot I wanted to replace my Atojo with. And you know, what I am going to choose is, again, the Atojo, which is now called the Crossfire. I think this Crossfire X is pretty sweet. It's a little bit more, well, it's $100 more, but it is more beefy, feels a little bit stiffer, maybe more for aimed at the Supercross guy. But if you are extra scared, you know, go with one of these. But these are also extremely strong. That's probably more ankle support than both of these because they have this different design where it locks on the side versus the front. So yeah, if you want, I'd say in terms of protection, you would go in this order. I'd say Crossfire 3s, these things are beefy. Crossfire X seem pretty strong, durable, just a little bit less flex, or a little bit more flex, I should say, Crossfire. And then finally, the X Power Enduro would be kind of the softest. But to me, this is a good middle zone. I like this boot. It's very light. It's very fast to put on with 3 buckles, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm looking forward to using the sole, this very grippy feeling toe. I'm sure to get a lot of use out of at the hard enduro races, pushing the bike. And yeah, I'm really liking it. So let me know what your experience has been with Sidi. Which one do you would pick? And if you had any experience with these. Thanks, guys. See you out on the trail.